With David Dunn, who's a professor of international politics at the University of Birmingham. Good to have you with us, Professor. This is a historic moment. As we mentioned, this is the first time that any former president, or indeed a current president, has faced federal criminal charges. What are you expecting at this hearing later on Tuesday?
Well, this is the formal process whereby the charges are read out to Trump, and he is asked to make a plea guilty or not guilty. The expectation is that he will plead not guilty. The more interesting question we won't know yet is what his legal defense will be. Of course, last week, his main two lawyers resigned after having seen the 49 pages of this indictment, this very strong case that has been put together against Trump. So it's not clear what will go forward here. But today, there will be no cameras, no pictures, no telephone calls, no reporting in court. This will be a low-key affair in terms of the press are concerned. Whether there will be any incidents from the crowd that Trump and others have tried to arrange to be outside the court is another matter. What Trump is trying to do is to make this not about the criminal charges, but instead to make this a political act and trying to actually rally his supporters to protest what they call a political act of the Department of Justice bringing against him what he calls a witch hunt.
That's right, and he's used that term witch hunt a number of times in reference to this investigation. And we were just looking at live pictures there in Miami. It looks like perhaps his supporters have already began to gather around that courthouse in Miami, Florida. Do you believe, though, that this case has the potential to derail his efforts to run for president again next year?
Well, he's already running for president, and in the short term, as you say, the indications are that the opinion polls are very strong. He has a fanatical, cult-like, devotional base of maybe 20 to 30% of the Republican Party, who, no matter what he did, and he has been convicted as a sex offender in New York in a civil court, he's a self-confessed sex offender. And of course, there are multiple charges in this indictment, but also other ones coming down the line in Florida and Washington, and they make no difference to his support among that base. The Republican Party doesn't seem to be able to put together a candidate who will challenge him on the issues, and they're all waiting for him to fall. And as a consequence, they are not trying to actually knock him off the top spot, with the exception of maybe Chris Christie from New Jersey. But just now, it looks like the Republican Party are likely to choose him as their candidate. Whether, of course, the American people will choose him as their president depends on how they evaluate the choices between Donald Trump and Joe Biden when it comes to the election next year.
It's interesting to watch the reactions from the other contenders for the Republican nomination, DeSantis, his former deputy Mike Pence, Chris Christie and others. They really haven't come out strongly either way when it comes to these charges that Trump is facing. Do you think they're worried about perhaps alienating Trump's supporters that they eventually want to court themselves?
Absolutely. You capture the essence of it there. What they're afraid of is alienating that base. They would like, ideally, for Trump to be forced out of the race by virtue of the criminal charges brought against him. But they recognize that if they're to win the election, they will have to have the support of that base. So they don't want to alienate that base by attacking Trump directly. Instead, they hope that he will fall by the wayside, or that someone else, one of the other candidates, will take him down. That's not likely to happen. And as I say, as a consequence, he is 30 points ahead of DeSantis in Republican Party polls. He is out there campaigning way before anyone else has done. Of course, he's campaigning because he sees that as a way of trying to actually keep himself out of jail. If he's a candidate, he hopes, or if he's a president, he would act to actually pardon himself or in other ways to try and avoid prosecution. But in the meantime, it is a one-horse race in the Republican Party, and there doesn't seem to be a mechanism or a means or the willingness of his opponents to actually attack him in a way that would dislodge him from the support of that Republican Party base.
Okay, Professor David Dunn, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on TRT World.